shutdown melodrama continues. I love the smell of melodrama in the morning. It smells like the United States Senate.
Yes. Senator John Kennedy being humorous, as he very often is. The Democrats, the Schumer shutdown, you see, now they've decided to make it about Obamacare. I thought Obamacare was a done deal, you commie fascist Hitlerites, you lunatics. Stop shooting people. You see, another Democrat showed up at the Cathedral of St. Matthew's, the Catholic Cathedral in Washington, D.C., yesterday for the annual Red Mass, which is a tradition that's been going on since like the year 1283 or something in England and Europe, obviously not here, since we hadn't discovered America yet. That's right, we discovered America. It was discovered by Christopher Columbus, who the Democrats would crucify today. Well, they'd crucify Jesus today, too, wouldn't they? The Democrat Party. Loony bin, and another Molotov cocktail. The Democrat Party, they're really big on Molotov cocktails, aren't they? They love firebombing things, and they hate the Jewish people and the Catholic people and the American people and normal people. They're really not on the side of civilization. They're the left. Remarkable stuff. And we did open with Senator John Kennedy. They're always fun, always entertaining, and pretty much always right. But he was out there, and there's plenty to talk about the government shutdown. Michael Piercy noticed that the traffic today was not as light as it was last week. And then I, driving in, noticed the same thing. I don't know what's going on with that. Probably part of a nefarious plan of theirs. They've got all kinds of nefarious plans, don't you know? Yes, they do. The left is crazy. The left is violent. They're anti-law enforcement. There's an insurrection going on, being led by Democrat governors like Gavin Newsom and J.B. Pritzker, and got these mental dwarves in Portland, Oregon, and the mayor, the city council, the whole gang, the governor. They have a governor there, too. Amazing stuff. The state of Washington, the state of Illinois. The Democrat Party should reform their Confederate States of America, because it might be best. It might be best for just speed things along. So we've got that going. But in Virginia, Virginia, very nearby Virginia, I'm in Washington, D.C., our nation's capital. It's not a large area, and it might take several drives of a golf ball to make it to Virginia from where we sit right now, but not a whole lot more than that. And we've got the governor there, Glenn Youngkin, talking about the Democrat Party's attorney general candidate, whose name is Jay Jones. And the governor, the Republican governor, said that the Democrat nominee, Jay Jones, should step away in disgrace after it was discovered that he was texting about murdering the Republican, shooting him in the head twice, letting Pol Pot. Who else did he want to let live? He wanted to let everybody. Oh, the Hitler and Pol Pot. He'd let them live, but he would shoot the Republican Speaker of the House in the head twice if he only had 2 bullets, and there were 3 people there: Pol Pot, Adolf Hitler, and of course the Republican Speaker of the House. He would shoot the Republican Speaker of the House in the head twice and let Adolf Hitler live, and he'd let Pol Pot live. And then he said that he wanted to murder his children because he wanted his children to die in their mother's arms. And then he said, I'm going to be indelicate here, and I want to apologize up front. You know what? I'll be polite for now, and then when I read him his quotes directly, then I'll use the actual blunt force language. He said he would then go and urinate on their graves because he's a sadist, a psychopath, and he's the Democrat Party's candidate to become the #1 law enforcement official in the Commonwealth of Virginia. You know, home of George Mason and Thomas Jefferson. And pay no attention. The Democrat Party is a firebombing gang of slave-running, Jim Crow law passing. They're violent. They're violent in Chicago over the weekend. They're violent in Portland over the weekend. They're fighting against the federal government like the insurrectionists that they are. It's time that these politicians started facing arrest, and they should be cuffed face down and then dragged away by their ankles. You know, face down, hopefully down staircases and things like that. Now, I'm not saying that I'd shoot them in the head twice and then urinate on their graves like the Democrat running for the Attorney General slot in Virginia, Jay Jones, and Democrats will vote for him. Now, I'm not going to come in here and say 2 bullets to the head for Jay Jones, although that's the rhetoric that Jay Jones is using. The Democrat Party ought to be gassed. I'm just kidding. They're not necessarily gassed, but they should be canceled. They should go the way of the Bull Moose Party. They really should. The Know Nothing Party, or they should just be relabeled as the Know Nothing Party. They know lust for blood and for violence, though. They're completely crazy, and they go around calling everybody fascists, which is, once again, as I've been pointing out for years, no sense of irony. These people, absolutely no sense of irony. But the Democrat running for Attorney General in Virginia getting a lot of attention, as he should. And maybe there should be a pre-dawn FBI raid with a network camera crew across the street in tow, battering rams, shoot the dog, the whole thing. Or don't really shoot the dog. That's just silly. Why would you shoot the dog? Well, it's a tradition at this point, isn't it? So we've got that. Yeah, Jay Jones, Democrat of Virginia, just amazing. It's good to be a Democrat because the news media is not even covering it. The Washington Post isn't covering it. CBS News is not covering it. Even the local news isn't covering it. It's really remarkable stuff. Virginia Democrat AG, Attorney General nominee, once sent text messages about killing a former GOP colleague, the Grand Old Party. And the Democrat Party, see, where the Grand Old Party came along, really took off when we elected Abraham Lincoln, largely to abolish slavery. And then the Democrats murdered, how many? About 1.5 million people. And then they murdered Abraham Lincoln because they loved their slaves so much. And now they love cheap labor so much in the form of illegal aliens that, honestly, crazy. And who do we had? We had that one former Republican, he's out there talking about civil war. He's saying it thinks that it may be, what do you say? It may be inevitable. I've got him coming up too. Adam Kinzinger said that civil war may be inevitable. Isn't it amazing? And Democrats and their transgender children. How did they have children in the first place? But it turns out there are a whole lot of, I'm not going to use the word famous. There are a whole bunch of Democrats, a lot of Hollywood people like Robert De Niro and people like that. And they've all got tranny psycho kids. It's what the Democrats are doing to the country. And Greta von Thunberg, she's a lot of fun. Greta Thunberg, she's a celebrity activist because the left made the teenage idiot a celebrity activist. Greta Thunberg being held in a jail cell in Israel, which she's complaining is bed bug infested. Really? Let's throw her down in one of the tunnels in Gaza and have them keep her. You think bed bugs are bad? Just what do they see we got coming here? And she's complaining that she's being forced to sit for long periods on hard surfaces. And what she means by that is hard surfaces that are not on yachts or on Gulfstream jets, on private jets. Isn't that amazing? Also, you know how the Democrats, they hate the Jews. They're and then they call everybody fascists and Nazis. A visiting professor at the Harvard University. Last week we had Harvard University with the transgender freak show professor who's teaching gender studies. And what was his name, Michael? Lohor Vagistan. Lohor Vagistan is his name, and he's not a she, but he dresses like a she, kind of like the guy that the Democrats under Joe Biden put in charge of nuclear materials at the Department of Energy, the cross-dresser who was stealing everybody's luggage so he could dress in women's clothes that he stole from airport carousels. And that was just fine. That's not even a news story. Democrats are like, well, some people steal luggage while they're dressed in their grandmother's clothing. Isn't that amazing? But the Democrat Party, here's now the professor at Harvard. They're calling him a visiting professor because wouldn't want to say he was a full-time professor like Elizabeth Warren, who's not a member of any Native American tribe, but claimed to be for decades. And they kept promoting her and trotting her out at parties and saying, hey, look, we've got Chief Woo over here. And woo, woo, woo. The Democrat Party. Aren't they amazing? Hi, how are ya? Hi, how are ya? Hi, how are ya? But now they have a visiting professor placed on leave after the visiting professor was arrested for firing a pellet gun at a synagogue. All he had was a pellet gun, so he fired the pellet gun at the synagogue. If he had only had an explosive device, like the Democrat at St. Matthew's Cathedral Catholic Church in Washington, it's the Catholic Church where John F. Kennedy's funeral was, and where little John Kennedy was standing out front saluting in the day of his father's funeral when he was, 3 years old or something. And it's that church. And yesterday, a Democrat set up camp on the steps of St. Matthew's Church because there's an annual mass for the Supreme Court. And a Democrat showed up like a homeless lunatic, drove down from New Jersey. He's not a homeless lunatic, but he just set up a tent on the steps. And he had a Molotov cocktail and other devices designed for violence, because the Democrat Party is designed for violence ever since the KKK and Jim Crow and Jefferson Davis and the Confederate States of America. The Democrat Party is a terrorist organization. The Students for a Democratic Society and the Weather Underground and the Symbionese Liberation Army, and the list goes on and on of all the terrorist groups that the Democrat Party's in bed with and has long been in bed with. But now a professor at Harvard Law School was placed on administrative leave because they're investigating his firing a pellet gun at a synagogue on the eve of Yom Kippur, very sacred Jewish holiday. Carlos Portugal Gouveia. He's Carlos Portugal Gouveia. Is he an illegal alien, too? Because, they give jobs to illegal aliens at Harvard University, too. But nobody mentions whether he's an illegal sneaked into the country to get a job at Harvard. And he could pretend that he's a member of the Cherokee tribe. But Carlos Portugal Gouveia, arrested on Wednesday after he allegedly fired 2 shots at Temple Beth Zion in Brookline, Mass., according to reports from local outlet Brookline News. Gouveia was charged with disorderly conduct, disturbing the peace, vandalizing property. And at the Harvard Crimson, they say that he's arrested for firing the shots outside of the temple. But wait a minute, vandalizing property, I think that means he fired at and hit the property and windows, things like that. But, another Democrat lunatic, because they're everywhere. And again, since we're talking about the Democrats, man arrested and charged with possessing explosives ahead of church service, marking the start of the Supreme Court term. That's one of the headlines, and this happened yesterday, again at St. Matthew's, a major and very significant, very important Catholic church in Washington, D.C. Police arrested and charged a man with possession of explosives Sunday outside of a Washington, D.C. church, where an annual mass to mark the start of the Supreme Court term was set to take place hours later. The so-called Red Mass, again goes back to England centuries ago, being held here for almost 80 years, I believe. The so-called Red Mass is held each year to invoke God's blessing on those responsible for the administration of justice, according to St. Matthew's Cathedral and to the British Crown, going back to 1200-something. Western civilization is great. The left is a death cult, started really in 1917. You could go back to the Communist Manifesto and all that. In fact, didn't we have the Chicago Teachers Union last week was praising a cop killer fugitive that joined Chesimard, who goes by her Mau name, until she died in communist Cuba. And, just amazing stuff. The Democrat Party. So another lunatic at St. Matthew's Cathedral, because the Supreme Court, no Supreme Court justices were in attendance. Several had planned to attend. And then they got word that there was a Democrat terrorist there. And Brett Kavanaugh knows a thing or two about that. In fact, the Democrats gave a light sentence to their now cross-dressing, he goes by Sophia now, because he figured he'd make out better in prison if he told all the men in prison that his real name is Sophia. So we got that going on. The Democrat Party. Yeah, Louis Jerry, a 41-year-old from Vineland, New Jersey. unlawful entry, threats to kidnap or injure, that is murder, and possession of a Molotov cocktail, just scratching the surface. That's just yesterday. The Democrat Party is a violent organization. At what point do we declare them to be a terrorist organization? We're at 888-630-9625. I'm only scratching the surface on the crazy that the Democrats have given us this weekend. All right, let's go to the telephones. Government shutdown, and Virginia Savage J. Jones should probably be arrested coming up. Let's, in the meantime, go to Radu. Let's go to our friend Radu, calling from Potomac, Maryland. Radu, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hey, Chris, how are you?
I'm great, buddy. What do you say?
I wanted to talk to you a little bit about this, whatever that's called, that stupid brown bunny or black bunny or bad bunny or whatever his name is, that idiotic creature. I used to love sports. I played, I watched the NFL all the time, diehard fan. I stopped watching it about 7 years ago because my son is a Marine, and when they started taking the knee, as far as I'm concerned, they insulted my son and the military and the police and the national anthem and the flag. So I completely stopped watching. About 2 years ago, I started watching again because I'm a big Redskins fan, and they're playing better now. So let me put it this way. If the Redskins make the playoffs, I'll watch the Super Bowl, not watch the halftime. If they don't make the Super Bowl, I'm not going to watch, period. And I'm sure you've heard this moron was on SNL saying that, well, if you don't speak English, you guys have 4 months to learn English. Why in the world would I want to learn Spanish? Right. And remember, we had a jackass called Obama who came up and said, well, don't worry about them learning English. You should learn Spanish. Am I supposed to learn Spanish and maybe Japanese, maybe Chinese, Mandarin, some Italian, some French, and German? No, this is America. How about you learning English?
I put those two sound bites together myself, Radu, yesterday when I saw this happening, and Michael Piercy and I talked about it this morning, and we put those two sound bites together as well. And it's true. Bad Bunny says, learn to speak Spanish if you want to watch my halftime show. Seems like quite a commitment to watch a halftime show. And then it did bring us back to Barack Hussein Obama, who told us all that we better learn how to speak Spanish because it's part of the fundamental transformation of America.
Instead of worrying about whether immigrants can learn English, they'll learn English. You need to make sure your child can speak Spanish.
Because the Democrats are bringing back slavery, and they love slavery. Barack Obama loves slavery, illegal alien, cheap labor. But you don't have to house them or feed them or anything. Free health care, though. Well, the Democrats, they shot and killed Abraham Lincoln, and then President Garfield and President McKinley, and they shot and they wounded President Reagan, and they shot and wounded President Trump. A communist shot and killed John F. Kennedy, the only Democrat ever to have been shot. Teddy Roosevelt was shot and wounded as well. And Democrat Party is the party of terrorist groups and kidnappings and cop killers, and they're praising a cop killer just last week, Assata Shakur, a terrorist, racist, radical who escaped from prison after being sentenced for murdering a New Jersey state trooper. And the Chicago Teachers Union was praising Assata Shakur last week in tweets, ending their tweet with you have nothing to lose but your chains. Karl Marx from the Communist Manifesto. The left is here, and they're here to destroy the world. Western civilization is very, very much under assault, and it was funnier when it was just Italy and lefties in France and beep holes in Africa. But now the Democrat Party is a threat to civilization itself. Now, let me go to this Democrat in Virginia. He's the Democrat Party's nominee to become the Attorney General of the Commonwealth of Virginia. And the Attorney General is, of course, the top law enforcement officer in the state. And now the governor of Virginia, a Republican, and a good man, Glenn Youngkin, is calling on the Democrat Party's nominee, Jay Jones, to step away, like George. Step away, George. That's step off, George. Step away in disgrace. Now, Glenn Youngkin, the governor of the state of Virginia, says Democrat, this is the headline at Fox News, says Democrat AG candidate Jay Jones must step away in disgrace over texts about former GOP leader. Jay Jones apologizes for texts about former Virginia House Speaker Todd Gilbert, who said, Jay, the Democrat, said he wanted to murder him and shoot him in the head twice. Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin said that state Democratic Attorney General candidate Jay Jones should abandon his campaign in disgrace. No Democrat has spoken out against him, no elected Democrat anywhere that I'm aware of, after he once remarked about shooting a former Republican Virginia House Speaker in texts, actually about to shoot him in the head, I believe, and in text with another lawmaker. They're Democrats. They're doing funny stuff about murdering because nobody murders like the left. Texts obtained by Fox News Digital on Friday showed an August 2022 conversation involving Jay Jones, who wants to be the Attorney General in Virginia, then a recently departed delegate from Norfolk, and Delegate Kerry Coyner, C-O-Y-N-E-R, Coyner, a Republican from Chester. At one point, Jones referenced then House Speaker Todd Gilbert, a Republican from Shenandoah, and he wrote, listen to what the Democrat wrote. You may have heard it by now, but let's take a look at this. He wrote, here's what the Democrat who wants to be Attorney General tweeted. 3 people, 2 bullets, period. Gilbert, Hitler, and Pol Pot. Gilbert gets 2 bullets to the head. See, he wouldn't kill Pol Pot, who murdered millions of people in Cambodia. He wouldn't murder Adolf Hitler, who murdered millions and millions of people in Europe. But he would murder the Republican speaker from Shenandoah, very beautiful area, Shenandoah. And the Democrat is hell-bent on murder. Just amazing. Now, Gilbert gets 2 bullets to the head. And then, listen to this. He says, and then he hoped his children would die. Okay? There's honestly, the Democrat Party is a threat to civilization itself because they're not democratic, as I like to say. Friendly fire isn't, social media isn't, common courtesy isn't, and the Democratic Party isn't democratic. Texts obtained by Fox News Digital on Friday showed an August 2022 conversation involving Jones, and this is pretty amazing stuff. The governor is having none of it because he's on the side of civilization. He's a normal person. When the guy who wants to be chief law enforcement of your state says that the chief Republican speaker in the state house gets 2 bullets to the head, and I hoped his children would die. That's good stuff. Just amazing. There's no gosh, I'm sorry here. Jones doesn't have the morality or character to drop out of this race. And his running mate, Abigail Spanberger, and who's this Ghazla Hashmi, and every elected Democrat in Virginia don't have the courage to call on him to step away from this campaign in disgrace. And he should, and that is what the governor there said. A spokesman for Coyner's campaign confirmed the veracity of the texts first reported by National Review magazine, saying they were disturbing and disqualifying for anyone who wants to seek public office, especially the chief law enforcement officer. Jay Jones wished violence on the children of a colleague and joked about shooting Todd Gilbert. It's disgusting and unbecoming any public official, said a spokesperson for the Republican governor, Glenn Youngkin. Isn't that amazing? Jones is running against the incumbent who is Virginia Attorney General Jason Miyares, a Republican. And he's great. Cuban-American family, fled communism, and found the Democrat Party. Now, the Republican Attorneys General Association also called on Jones to immediately withdraw from the race following his abhorrent text messages. Isn't that amazing? All right, now we have audio. Let's go to audio of the Attorney General, because Glenn Youngkin yesterday was on the television somewhere. I apologize. It wasn't yesterday. It was this morning. He was on the Fox News channel early this morning, and we gathered it for you so you don't have to watch TV news all the time like we do. Governor Glenn Youngkin this morning.
I thought this was a joke because no one could write this. I mean, no, this is demented. And here we have the Democrat candidate running for Attorney General, the top cop in Virginia, wishing not only that he had 2 bullets to put in a guy's head, but then he wishes death on his children. And Todd Gilbert has small kids. And for Jay Jones to wish death on his small children is beyond belief.
It is a little bit beyond belief, but this is the Democrat Party today. They're the breakaway republic of the Democrat Party. They're the Confederate States of America all over again. Glenn Youngkin was having none of it.
But that is where the violent left of the Democrat Party is. This is where these folks are. You know, we had Charlie Kirk assassinated, and so many folks celebrated in the far left. We've had 2 Democrats threaten to murder 2 of our delegates running for office in Virginia. And now Jay Jones comes out and says that he has 2 bullets for Todd Gilbert's head and wants to see his children die. I mean, this is unbelievable.
Membership in the Democrat Party is indicative of mental illness. It genuinely is at this point. Now, again, he's texting back and forth. He's Jay Jones. He's got his JJ on his identifier here. And he's talking about the Republican Speaker of the House in Virginia. He's talking about his wife and their children, and he wants their children dead, too. He wrote, Jay Jones, the Democrat, wants to be chief law enforcement. If those guys die before me, I will go to their funerals to piss on their graves. Send them out awash in something. And a nice person responding says, Jay Jones, 3 people, 2 bullets. Gilbert, Hitler, and Pol Pot. Again, Adolf Hitler, we all know. Pol Pot, the Khmer Rouge, the Red regime in Cambodia murdered millions of their own people, which is what communists do. And then he said, Jay Jones said, Gilbert, and again, 3 people, 2 bullets. Gilbert, Hitler, and Pol Pot. Gilbert gets 2 bullets to the head. Spoiler, : he loves his : put Gilbert in the crew with the 2 worst people you know, and he receives both bullets every time. And responding, you weren't trying to understand. You were talking about hoping Jennifer Gilbert's children would die. Right? He said, yes, I've told you this before. Only when people feel pain personally do they move on policy. This is how the left gets you to change your position on policy. They murder you and murder your children. It's hard to change your policy positions after you've been shot twice in the head, but this is the left. These aren't liberals. Man. And then responding, the person that he's responding to casually, I said back to him, I point blank asked you more than 3 times, and you dug in that you meant it. I honestly am questioning a lot today. And then the Democrat who wants to be chief law enforcement officer said, I mean, do I think Todd and Jennifer are evil and that they're breeding little fascists? Yes. The little fascists are the Democrat Party, and they love calling everybody what they are. It's the old Russian playbook, as we've explained before. Isn't that amazing? Yes, sir. Eric Erickson on the Twitter saying, a politician, this is another little detail about this guy. A politician got arrested, Jay Jones, Democrat. A politician got arrested for doing 116 miles per hour in a 45 zone. Listen to this now. He was sentenced to 1,000 hours of community service in lieu of prison. He devoted 500 of those hours to his own political campaign, obfuscating to the court about how he did his community service. See, because you got 1,000 hours community. Oh, I'm dedicating my time to public service by working for a political campaign. It's his own political campaign. He should go to the penitentiary for lying to the court about his community service. He also not only texted a colleague about murdering other politicians, but when the recipient of the text messages objected, he called her to argue the point, insisting his opponents are worthy of assassination. But the politician is Jay Jones, a Democrat in Virginia. So what would be the national news story if he were a Republican, with Manu Raju on CNN and others shoving microphones in the face of the congressmen on Capitol Hill demanding to know if they condemn him? Sure, the news media will instead. It'll be a local story and not a national story. So local that even the major press outlets in Virginia will try to avoid it. Now, Governor Glenn Youngkin this morning on the Fox News Channel in the 8 a.m. hour.
Winsome Sears immediately came out and condemned this, and Abigail Spanberger gave the normal, oh, it was wrong, and then's back out campaigning with all other the Democrats calling for this guy to win. This is nuts, and this is why the Democrat Party has lost touch with where America is today, when they can support someone who wants to put two bullets in somebody's head who's a political arrival and see his children die.
And see his children die, because you got to kill the children, because that's the only way they'll change their mind on policy, is if we start killing them and their children. The Democrat Party, Governor Glenn Youngkin.
The only satisfactory answer here is to step out of this race in disgrace. And gosh, I'm sorry, is nowhere near sufficient. The Democrats have to come together and figure out where their moral compass is, because they don't have one right now, where they can allow someone to stay on the ticket who has said these demented things about a political rival who wants children to die. And I can't believe Virginians for a second will allow this to happen.
Well, you know, the Democrat Party has gotten pretty funky these days. All right, let's grab a quick phone call, Michael. Let's go to Chris, calling from Marshall, Virginia. Christopher, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Good morning, sir. It's been way too long. I miss talking to you. Here's the thing. Jay, what's his name, Jones, he had a very, very active social media presence up until 4 days ago, where he has gone radio silent. His sycophants are defending his comment because that one line about two bullets, was lifted from an old Office, an episode of The Office. However, I can't find the episode where they talk about anticipating urinating on the graves and having their children die. I guarantee you, I bet $50 that there are myriad more text and probably audio recordings of good old Jay, and they are circling the wagons and they're sucking their teeth and they're saying, I don't know, Jay, it ain't looking good.
Well, I don't know if it, you know, I got to tell you, Chris, they're going to wait for the polls. They're going to look at the polls. This is what Democrats do. They don't care about this at all. I mean, the senior leadership, Nancy Pelosi, doesn't care about it. Who the hell's the chair of the Democratic National Committee now? Some irrelevant gas bag. And where are these voices? Where's Barack Obama? Where's Hussein? Let's ask Hussein what he thinks about murdering the children. I guess we already know what he thinks about that. I remember he voted present when he was in the State House in Illinois on a bill that would have banned killing babies after they survived an abortion. So I guess we know where he stands. I guess we know where the whole Democrat Party stands.
I like to be close to the children.
Let's face it, the left is violent, and the Democrat Party is now the left. They're not liberals. They're the left. We should go back to the telephones, talk to the nice American people. Let's go to, let's go to Philip calling from Centerville, Georgia. listening on the great WMAZ. Philip, you are on the Chris Plant Show.
Chris, what an honor to talk to you, my friend. Thank you so much for what you do. I greatly appreciate you.
Thank you. Piece of cake, my friend. Wouldn't have it any other way.
You make it sound very simple. I wish I could do what you do. It sounds like you have a lot of fun in your life. I
do. Actually, I do have a lot of fun. We have, what's not fun about what the Democrats are doing to our country? Ooh.
Chris, I was speaking to Michael. I believe that's your guy who answered the phone. Very kind gentleman. I just want people to just slow down just a minute. Okay, people are getting worked up in a frenzy, and Democrats need to listen to this. It's very, very simple. I don't make the rules, Chris. I just follow them. You understand? I didn't make this.
Sure.
Democrats worship Satan. Now, people go, why do they shoot Charlie? Why do they do this? Because evil does what evil does. Satan is the God of the world. We live in the world, but on the earth. Now, you have a choice to make. You have a choice to choose Jesus Christ, or you have a choice to choose Satan. There's no other choice about it. It's a very simple choice. You either choose one side or the other. There's no other side. Now, nowhere in the Bible does it say, Jesus loves you, kill the little children. There's not even a song that people don't sing. They know Jesus loves the little children, all the children of the world. Jesus does not like lying. He does not like deception. And all that is just the playbook of Satan. And people just need to get a grasp and understand evil does what evil does. Now, to the Democrats, I love you, and I want you to hear me. I love you. After evil is done with you, it's like a fire. When a fire burns a forest, it leaves decay, and it keeps going. All fire does is consume. That's all it does. All evil does is consume. I'll give you an example. The young man that shot Charlie and assassinated Charlie Kirk is sitting in a jail cell right now, and nobody cares about him at all because evil has done what it needed to. It has consumed him. It has now discarded him.
Yeah.
And it is moving on further into the Democratic Party.
True. And his poor parents. Good stuff.